Welcome back to another episode of the Dish TV here at SRI International. I'm Renita Malhotra Hora, Head of Marketing and Communications. And I have with me today Bill Mark, who is the president of our Division of Information and Computing Sciences. Hi, Bill.
Hello, it's good to be here.
Great to have you on Dish TV. And I'd love to speak with you about what the ICS division is doing to build business, commercial business in, with some of its different IP. I know you've got a very vast IP stack and there are lots of things you do. So how can we begin to understand all of this?
We work on a lot of different stuff. Information technology is everywhere. It underpins, honestly, almost everything we do these days. And we work on hundreds of projects every year. Yes, of course, we try to build our commercial business, but really what we're trying to do is solve problems. And many of the problems that we work on have commercial as well as government interests. So anyway, let me start off with a theme. Human-centered computer interaction. So interacting with computers has gotten a lot better over the past several decades. When we want to express what we want to do to a computer, we have to spend a lot of energy adapting to what the computer will understand. And an example of that, I'll just use Siri. Our colleagues at the University of Utah have done research in the cognitive load. And it turns out that the increased cognitive load of talking to a system like Siri versus talking to a passenger who's in the car, another human being, is about an 80% higher cognitive load. So that means that whatever you're doing, in this case driving, you're spending all of this energy trying to get the computer to understand what it is that you want to do. And we think that one of the root causes of that is that the computer is just no good at human conversation. It just doesn't know how we interact. But the worst is that if what we're asking for is in any way complicated, the computer just doesn't know how to have the conversation. So even if you ask for a particular kind of restaurant in an area, most systems will just spew back to you very rapidly a whole bunch of alternatives. And if you try and interrupt and say, let me hear more about that one, the system just craters. So people do that, and then so they learn from that how to ask the computer in a way that will get the right answer. It's not the way they would like to ask. It's the way the computer will understand them. The computers are all around you. Okay. The question then is how do you talk to it? So let's say your kitchen. Your kitchen already has a bunch of computers in it, but in the future there'll be even more. Suppose you want help with a recipe. A lot of people use their smartphone to do that, which is perfectly feasible. You could also be talking to your kitchen or talking to your stove or talking to a hologram that looks like Jacques Pepin. We're going to be figuring that out. But the hard part of this really is human conversation is so natural that we don't think about it at all. But it turns out there's a very, very specific set of rules that make conversations work and not work. So just a little while ago, you were trying to get in a word edgewise. You were trying to stop me from talking. And we have ways to do that. So you indicate that visually, and then you start to make statements, etc. So we need the computer to be able to do that too. And that's an example of a project that we're working on right now.
So human-centered computer interaction, that's great. Tell me about other themes that the ICS division is exploring.
Well, one, a big one that's in the headlines all the time now is building systems that we can trust. So I'm sure it's not an exaggeration to say that we have a crisis of trust going on, not just in this country, but worldwide. And it's at many levels. And it's can we trust the computer systems that we deal with every day? Are they being hacked in some way? Are we losing key information? But also, how do we build social media that we can trust? So those are very present problems for us. And we've been in, just to take one actually fairly narrow problem of deep fakes. So a deep fake is a video that has been in some way altered. This is becoming, frankly, easier to do because of the video technology, and therefore becoming more pervasive. And we need to be able to detect those fakes and make sure that people watching them understand them as fakes. Deep fakes are just one tiny thing in this overall problem. So fake news is much broader than deep fakes. That's misinformation in the sense of, let's just take an example of something that tells a story, possibly using real photos, etc., but aspects of it are fake. And finding that out is difficult. And that often means finding the true provenance of the information. Where does it actually come from? Not where it says it comes from, but where does it actually come from? So that's a big area. And I think the fair thing to say is that we're doing research in that. The commercial companies who have a huge vested interest in this, like Facebook, et cetera, are also doing research in this area. And there's quite a community around this trying to solve this problem of which we're a part. There's other approaches too that are looking at this problem of provenance of, how do we prove that this actually came from where it said it came from? And that has to do with going beyond detection into actually finding ways to create this information, say a video or even a piece of text, in a way that is more traceable. I think that's really the way to get at this. And I think companies and ventures are going to start to become more and more interested in that.
So this is very interesting because it sounds like the research, well, it's clear from what you say that the research we're doing actually is collaborative within SRI International. Tell me more about that, because there are not many places, as far as I understand, that have the capability to do that. Like you say, there are other commercial entities, doing research, but they probably don't have the opportunity to have two different kinds of divisions within the company doing different things, collaborate with each other.
We work with all the divisions of SRI. We have a bunch of projects going on with education and bio, for example. We're working on better ways to do drug discovery and things like that. So you're absolutely right. Speaking of collaboration, SRI is very collaborative in that regard. There's no disincentive, and there's every incentive to work with people from other divisions. So we do that routinely.
All right. Thank you so much, Bill. That's Bill Mark. He is the president of our Information and Computing Sciences division here at SRI International.